Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Today I am going to be exploring whether or not the Abominable Book Box is really worth my money. So I have been getting the Abominable Book Box for over a year now, so I thought I would give myself a challenge to read some of the books that we got in the Abominable Book Box over the last 12 months. So rather than reading 12 books for this video, I've chosen 7, so not really an even number because we don't like to do even numbers on this channel. But I have been reading these 7 books for this video. Then I guess use that to kind of see if getting this box is really worthwhile. I haven't read books from this box before this video. Other than ones that I got as duplicates that I've already read. So every time I was getting the box, I was opening it, doing my unboxings, saying, oh, I really am excited to read this book, put it on the shelf, didn't touch it. I mean, there's still books on here that I've gotten, some of these red ones, that I haven't even looked at yet. So that is why I thought I would do this video. I'm now just jumping in here to tell you about the book that I've just read. And I have also just done a costume change during that hour because it's so warm in Edinburgh right now, which is so bizarre because literally like this morning there was clouds and it was cold. So that's why I was in my jumper. But it's so hot this afternoon. So costume change, the sun is still beaming in, as you can probably see. So we're going to do this quickly so then I can leave this room because it's so warm in here. So I picked up The Pale House Devil first because this one has an audio. So I listened to this. And read along at the same time. So that was quite good. I also then kind of put the book down, continued listening whilst I was doing some meal prep for the week. I know it's Saturday, but I'm prepping some sauce to kind of go in the freezer for the week. So I also then finished this physically whilst listening along, and I'm actually pleasantly surprised by this. It's so short. It has like such a punchy atmosphere. So there's a lot going on. It's so fast paced. You're getting through a lot of this really quickly because it is so short. And so essentially we're following 2 detectives, like private investigators, one who is alive and one who is unalive. And they are recruited by this old landowner trying to remove a creature from Pale House. And the story develops from there. We kind of learn more about the reasoning for this. what this guy is like himself. And also you're following this friendship between the two PIs. And it's such a fun, like banter based friendship that they have. And it's really, really interesting to read. So we have Ford and Noonan. Noonan is the unalived character in this story, and they both go along this journey across country to kind of escape from New York because something went down in New York. And then they get hired by somebody in Los Angeles, California area to get rid of a devil in Pale House. And so it's such an interesting story. I really love the creature feature in this. It is slightly gory with very small body horror in this, which I really enjoyed. Body horror is such a fun topic to read about. I enjoy the goriness of it. This wasn't that gory, but you could tell that that's implied as well in certain parts. But the whole cosmic creature feature was quite interesting and really done well. I really loved how Richard wrote this book and all of the characters in here. They all meshed really well together. And yeah, this is set up to me anyway, like the start of a new series. I'm not sure if it is, but how it's been written and how it ended, I feel like there should be more to this story and to these characters, because there is just so much there that you can develop and delve deeper into. So I really hope that Richard decides to kind of develop this story a little bit more and turn it into a full-fledged series, because I really enjoyed reading this and I really don't want to leave Ford and Noonan just yet. So we do need more. So if you're listening or if you know this person, tell them to write more. This was a good first read for this vlog. Super intrigued to get into more of these books now because it's just a really good start. So You'd Look Better as a Ghost by Joanna Wallace, and it was completely different, a different type of thriller. It kind of took the genre and turned it on its head. It really is a standout read. It takes dark elements of thrillers but makes it comedic, and I just thought that was an incredible way of writing. And so essentially we are following this girl who loses her dad and finds out that she likes to kill people, and it turns into a game for her. So it's quite interesting to see that character development, but rather than developing in a positive way, she descends into darkness, and it was really fun. I really loved the writing in here. I think Joanna writes really well, and especially making this dark topic fun and lighthearted. So it was an interesting book to read, and I actually really did enjoy this one. So it's definitely a book for the Abominable win. So I finished the Desert Creatures story, and this is a huge disappointment. I really did not enjoy this book whatsoever. This book had so much potential. So essentially, this is a story that is centered around a virus spreading, and it takes over the US, and It's like fungus based as well. So you've got kind of like that fungus horror in there. And so we were following a father and daughter on a pilgrimage across the US in the desert to seek salvation in Las Vegas. So we follow this kid on her journey to survival and the dad's kind of desperation, so to speak. And it's just a weird story, and I really did not like this writing. It was so bizarre and really didn't stand up to much. It's very religious as well. At least that's what I've picked up from it. Somehow this just missed the mark, and it just wasn't it. I really did not enjoy this book whatsoever. It wasn't exciting. The book is so slow and there's barely any movement. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't really enjoy this writing. And for me, I think I'm giving this a 2 star. So, it's a really low rating and probably one of the worst books that this box has given me over the year. Considering all the other ones I've read so far have been 4 and 5 stars, to give it a 2 to this book was crazy. So this one was not a hit. So I don't have a mic for this portion. Um, my mic died and I am charging them, but jumping in to tell you about What Kind of Mother. This is a story that is very bizarre. It starts off really well and you're rooting for Maddie, who left home as a teenager because she was having a child. She went off to make it on her own, raising this child, and then somehow she is brought back home. She starts working at the local farmers market, reading people's palms and giving them futures, giving them psychic readings, and she stumbles across an old friend from high school, and she kind of does his reading, and something's not right, and she wants to delve into this and figure it out. There was a child who went missing, and this is centered around that missing child. So the start of it was gearing up to be a really good book, but it took a twist, and the twist was interesting, but the way it was written and how this author made Maddie out to be a bad mum was very weird, and the actual outcome bizarre. I don't really know why it went in that direction. The book had so much potential. The writing in the start was incredible, but it felt like two different writing styles put together. It was weird, and don't get me wrong, a weird book is good, but somehow it just didn't work in this story. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say other than it's just a bit boring and a bit weird. It did hook me in the start of the story, and it was gearing up to be like a mystery kind of thriller where we were searching for this missing kid. The second half took a turn and it turned horror, and I think this book would have been better if they stuck to the missing child storyline and followed it as a thriller story, rather than trying to change it halfway, because it didn't work. At least for me, I just didn't think that this was a really good story and how it was plotted. But yeah, that is my thoughts on What Kind of Mother. I am not giving this a high rating because whilst I really enjoyed the start of it, the ending and how Maddie kind of was portrayed through the second half of the story, I just didn't really like, and I feel like I couldn't give this anything higher than a 3 because of those reasons. Like, I didn't really enjoy this, so I am giving it a 2 star because I did only enjoy the first half, and I don't think that I can give it anything more than that, which is really sad because now I have two 2-star books from this box, and I was really gearing up to having a successful box. So this is going to bring down the average rating a lot, and especially if my next book is going to be another 2. But I gave it a go, didn't enjoy this whatsoever, so giving it a 2. So next up is The Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison. This is a book that you go into it thinking one thing and you actually kind of discover something else. It's a story about family separation, feeling like an outsider, hence why it's called Black Sheep. So we're following Vesper, who leaves her family home and their highly religious home. She sets off on a journey by herself, and she then kind of just starts her own life. She has no contact with anybody else from her home, and then she kind of gets an invite to a family get together, which is a wedding in the family. So she takes that as an opportunity to go back and kind of gets thrust into family dramas again, and she starts to learn why she actually left in the first place. It's kind of like heartwarming and scary at the same time. There's a lot in here, and Rachel Harrison is becoming one of my favorite authors. This is her third book that I've read. And yeah, I mean, I've given this a 4-star rating because I did really enjoy the writing style and the messaging and theming that she delivers in this story. And Rachel Harrison tends to write stories with underlying meanings, so we could be following this story and it has a completely different undertone, and I really enjoy that when there's something kind of special behind it. But yeah, I did think that this was a really good book, especially for this box. It is kind of spooky, but it's not too deep into the horror. So it's kind of a good read, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I'm giving this a 4-star, like I said, and I'm really excited to read her new one that comes out, called So Thirsty, which is a vampire story, because I've read Cackle, Such Sharp Teeth, and Bad Dolls, and I've really loved all of them. I think I need to read The Return. I think that's what it's called, and So Thirsty, and then I think I'm like caught up, and I think that will then determine whether or not she is a favorite author and becomes an automatic buy. So that is Black Sheep. It is very enjoyable, so I definitely give the box points for including this one in one of their boxes. So the next book that I read was My Throat, An Open Grave by Tori Bovalino, and wow, this book like literally is one of my favorite books of this year. So this story for me was like a foresty, creepy, beautiful story. It was written so flowery. Usually I don't enjoy flowery language, but I think in this story it kind of worked, and I really enjoyed Tori Bovalino's writing. I've enjoyed at this point all 3 of her books. All 3 of them have been really interesting reads, and this one is just beautiful. I really love how claustrophobic that she writes this town to be. So in My Throat, An Open Grave, we follow Leah, and her journey around learning about this monster in the woods that steals children. She didn't believe in this legend, so kind of just passed it off until her little brother went missing, and she had to go and find him. In this small town, the church is kind of running the show, and the church made Leah go and search for this kid to try and bring her brother back from the Lord of the Wood. And it is so creepy, and the way that Tori writes this wood was so incredible. I felt like I was in this story. I loved every second of reading this book. It's a story that centers around love, hate, and really about acceptance of yourself as well. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of meaning in this story, and I think it's a really, really good book to read. And I'm so glad that it was in this box because I really adore this. I probably would have bought it myself as well anyway, because Tori Bovalino is literally an automatic buy for me. Even though it is only 3 books, I've adored all 3 of them, and yeah, so I probably would have bought this anyway, but I really enjoyed it. It was really great to meet her as well and have the book kind of personalized to me. Um, so yeah, I really enjoyed it. The small town atmosphere in here was so claustrophobic, and it's a real sense of how you need to forgive yourself for certain actions, and explores the darker side of humanity. So, really, really good read. I've given this a 5 star because it was one of my favorite books of the year. And I think that it is a perfect horror book to read. It is a good starting point into horror as well because it does lean towards literary. A very good book. And I am so happy that I read it this year. And yeah, so this is a 5 star read. So now I'm on my last book, which is 19 Claws and a Blackbird. This is a collection of short stories, and it has 19, but to be fair, I think it's actually 20, which center around humans being the monster. There's a couple of alien thingies happening in this story too, but essentially that is it. The story follows and delves very deep into darkness of the human psyche and how humans can be so monstrous, which was really interesting. For me, collections of stories never get a high rating simply because there's always going to be a couple stories in here that just don't hit. I thought they were really too brutal, but yeah, I think that's going to bring down my overall scoring for this book. It's just grim. It's very grim. So I don't think this book would be for everybody, and it's very disturbing. So yeah, you might enjoy this one too. But for me, Tender as the Flesh was so much better because I don't usually enjoy short story collections. There's usually only one that really stands out for me in a collection. So yeah, I'm not really sure on this one. I think I am going to be giving this one a 2 star as well, mainly because I did really only like 1 or 2 stories and all the other ones were kind of not for me. Recently I've just not been enjoying the very dark stuff. This rating is probably influenced by my recent enjoyment in lighter horror rather than the really extreme stuff. So unfortunately, at the time I read this book, wasn't hitting for me. But it is an interesting read, especially if you are into kind of looking into the more dark side of human desires and fears and the human as a monster kind of storylines. You do get a lot of that in these 19 or 20 stories. So with that, I have now finished this video and I have read all 7 of these books now to test if the Abominable Book Box is really worth my money. And I've given a 2 star, 2 star, 2 star, a 5 star, a 4, a 4, and a 4. Oops. With those ratings for these books, that kind of averages out as a 3.28. So that's pretty much an average rating for the Abominable Book Box. So therefore I think that it would be worth my money. I just hope that I get some more 5 stars from the books that come in these boxes. But this was such a fun journey to read 7 books from 7 of the boxes that we got over the course of this year. I have been getting this box for a year now, so I'm thinking that it is worth it. I am relatively pleased with the books that we got. There were obviously 3 misses in this, but there have been other successes and I've thoroughly enjoyed reading these books. So I do think it is worth it. If you enjoy horror and delving into the macabre, then I really do think that the Abominable Book Box is worth it, especially if you're in the UK as well. It is local to the UK, which is great because we don't usually get horror things in the UK. So yeah, I am so happy that I've finally rounded out this video and you've come along on this journey with me. So let me know in the comments if you've read any of these stories, what you thought of them. But thank you so much for being here with me. If you enjoy this type of content, do like and subscribe. It'd be really good to have you back here again. And I guess until next time, keep your pages turning and embrace the darkness. Bye!